For English subtitles, push the subtitle button. Hello, and welcome to a new episode of Reptil TV. Here is my introductory creature, this handsome Yemen chameleon male. In this case, a piebald, as you can see by his white snout, white feet. There have been these piebalds among Yemen chameleons for a few years now. Not everyone will like it. Will there be one or two of you who say, does this really have to be the case with the chameleons? It just happened to come about this way. Piebalds are inherited recessively. I think it's really cool to have the white in there as well. Chameleons are already a color highlight, and when the white is added, I really like it a lot. And when they just look so grim and have this white beard around, I think it's cool. Yes, my introductory creature for you today, Peptratus. The topic of our episode today is, of course, sensationally condemned to death, virus-positive green tree pythons. Look at this wonderfully beautiful green tree python. He is actually more or less doomed. Not because he is a bit nasty and might bite me here in the hand, but because he simply carries the nidovirus. By the way, to start off, I usually don't do shout-outs or greetings in these shows. Someone always asks for a greeting before the shows, like, say a hello to me or something. However, this show is my exception. A shout-out to Milos from Austria. You once told me that you have been a long-time fan of Reptil TV. So this episode about Chondropydon is dedicated to you, Milos. A shout-out to you in Austria. The background to this, especially regarding the fact that we have already done an episode about viruses, is that viruses should really not be underestimated. There is the adenovirus, the nidovirus, and the paramyxovirus, and they are indeed serious, or they are a serious problem in herpetoculture. The last few years, especially with the green tree pythons, have been incredibly unsettling. So I actually believe now that it is, I don't know if it's half or nearly half or possibly more than half of the animals, especially among the green tree pythons, that are positive for the nidovirus. I'm making this episode simply to raise your awareness that you really need to be careful if you decide to get into breeding Chondropydon or something like that. Be cautious about what you acquire. You need to have the animals tested beforehand. With the nidovirus, it is the case that the animals can be positive or often positive without showing any signs. So this animal here, I'll show you another one later, shows no symptoms so far. He is doing well, he is in perfect health, you can see it in his behavior. He is not hanging around limply or anything. He is also not congested, but he tested positive for nidovirus. The problem is that these viruses are also highly contagious, and even if they are doing well now, they could be in poor condition in 6 months or a year. And above all, it can infect other animals. If you have a collection of many animals, whether they are tree pythons or other reptiles, this individual can infect your entire collection. Therefore, you must not, to put it extremely, introduce any virus-positive animal, such as one carrying the nidovirus, into your collection. So, to tell you the story from the beginning, this is now a different animal, a bit more relaxed than the previous one, so it's a little easier for me. I don't necessarily want to get bitten right now. To tell you the whole story. A breeder from Austria has listed beautiful green tree pythons. This is the number. 2 of them with a high yellow proportion are truly beautiful, dreamlike animals. We had contact, and I naturally asked if he tests the animals for viruses. He said no, he doesn't do virus tests. He would do a fecal sample, but no virus tests. I said, well, if that's the case, then I would do it after. I mean, I would actually prefer if he does it, but if necessary, when I receive the animals, I would put them in quarantine and test for viruses. And if they are positive, we would of course have to reverse the transaction and he would have to take the animals back. He agreed, no problem, and brought me the animals. The animals are really in good condition. Nothing can be determined externally so far. So I had a good feeling at first. I had virus tests done on the animals for paramyxovirus, nidovirus, and adenovirus. These are the three classic viruses that are tested for, and unfortunately the animals were nidovirus positive. And nidovirus positive, as I mentioned earlier, means that they can naturally infect all other reptiles, and sooner or later symptoms will also appear in them. This means that such animals can only be kept in complete quarantine, completely separated from all other animals. You don't have to euthanize them, that would be a shame. You can't euthanize a visually healthy animal that shows no symptoms. That probably wouldn't be the right method either. However, you can keep them completely separate, which is quite difficult for me, as I have hundreds of reptiles around me here. The nice man from Austria has since disappeared. 1,000. I do have written confirmation of the cancellation, but it is of no use if he disappears and refuses any contact. We even brought the animals over, but then he simply didn't open the door, didn't respond. And so the animals are back with me now. I tell the story partly to get it off my chest, but really, and this is the more important point, as I said, Yusen warns you, that viruses in herpetoculture have become a significant problem. I believe, or my assumption is, that the background or transmission background is often mites. These snake mites that we as herpetoculturists all know to some extent, which transmit this virus. And the green tree pythons are also a typical mite-infected species, particularly susceptible to these snake mites. So it's interesting, for example, tiger pythons are also a type of animal that is susceptible to mites, while royal pythons are less so. There are terrarium animals that love mites, particularly a certain type of terrarium animals, such as king pythons and tiger pythons. Others are less inclined to go after them, but they do sometimes. So it's not that they don't infest them at all, but it seems that when a mite has the choice between chondropydons and king pythons, it prefers to drink the blood of the chondropydons. I believe that this might be part of the reason why nidoviruses are perhaps so widespread among the green tree pythons, also known as chondropydons, which I keep referring to as chondropython, but it's actually green tree python or Morelia viridis. Now the question for me is, what do I do with these wonderfully beautiful animals? I think I have found a solution and can place it with a friend who is a herpetoculturist. I am now in a legal dispute with the previous owner, as I will naturally try to reclaim my money and also file charges against him for fraud, because a clear agreement was made regarding the stories about these green tree pythons. As I said, this serves as a warning for all of you to be cautious about where you buy anything. On one hand, be careful, can I trust the person? On the other hand, be careful, am I buying healthy animals? That was today's episode, and I'm looking forward to your comments below. What do you think about it? Comments like, Mr. Stefan, you see, you've already fallen for some BB boards and now you've fallen for these tree pythons again. Well, falling for something is always relative. You can only do your best. And unfortunately, there will always be one or another person trying to pull a fast one on you. Yes, I'm looking forward to your comments. Otherwise, if you enjoyed it, give me a thumbs up, stay loyal, and always check the sellers very carefully.